All right, welcome to the oh shit, what do we call it? The Snotboogie Funtime Smile Hour.
Yes, I believe that is the name.
Yeah, so pull out your crab chips and your natty bow and your this. By the way, this show loves. Excuse me if I've said this already. This is episode 6 of our Wire podcast. Or we're episode 5, but we're on episode 6 now. Do you see that much crab chips being eaten on a daily basis? Because this show hits that hard.
Um, I don't know. I would say it's a very true stereotype that Baltimoreans are really into crabs.
I love crab chips, but I'm just saying everyone's got at any given point in the season, everyone's
Right.
got a hand that has an Natty Bow in it, and the other hand has a bag of crab chips.
I would say my sneakers are far more likely to be crushing empty heroin and crack vials than crab chips. I mean,
That would be. I would. That's what I want. I want that like 20-year anniversary Lucas Spielbergian remake where they just CGI in like crab chips over everything else.
yes,
That's what I want from
yeah,
that.
and they're all shooting Natty Bow instead of heroin.
Could you imagine some of those like really like depressing like I don't know just like heroin house scenes but just like with both. Oh my god. All right. This is fantastic. All right, off and running. So we're talking about episode 6 of The Wire today, which is called The Wire. I am Eric, and as always, I'm with my co-host Michael.
Good to be here.
I call you Mike, but it says Michael on your thing, so that always.
It's all right. You can call me whatever the hell you want.
I feel
You
like
can call me Phil for all I care. I don't give a shit.
the fuck did I do? That, by the way, that has been one of my favorite takeaways from rewatching the season and really analyzing it. Is the amount of emphasis that like one of the Shakespearean, I guess, like through line phrases that mean 18 different other things is the "what the fuck would I do" from McNulty, and I think, I don't know, I feel very much like McNulty a lot of the time when everyone's mad at him and he has absolutely no idea why.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that too. But explain to me more why this phrase means so much to you.
Well, it's not just to me, to the Wire community at large. No, it's like it's one of those. I don't know if we've seen the episode yet, but I think we have. There's a scene where two characters are just saying "fuck" the whole. I think it's Bunk and McNulty, and they're just saying, "Fuck." This might be a future episode. I'm blanking on it. We're halfway through the season. Give me a break. Where they're just investigating, or maybe it's just Bunk. He's investigating a body or something, and he says "fuck" like 14 times, and that's all that's said, but it means something different times. That's kind of how McNulty's has been. Of I almost want to start over because that last minute of me talking was complete bullshit because I realized that was a terrible comparison. Just rewind. McNulty says it in situations where you asked me a really good question. I have no answer for it. McNulty.
All right. We can
No,
come back to it another time if you want.
I think the first time. No, I'm powering through. I don't give a shit. I'm powering through. McNulty says it the first time in as kind of a like I'm just trying to do my job as good police. Why is everyone so mad at me? And then I'm just trying to do what I think is a good job of being a husband and father. Why are they so mad at me?
Right.
I'm on your side about everything, and you're mad at me. What the fuck did I do? What the fuck did I do? But the truth is, we as viewers know that it is his fault. But if you look at him like as a character, you're just like you're not programmed to understand other people's needs in that way. You're just going on your own McNulty path.
Okay, I hear you.
In my humble opinion. So we open on Brandon's body. In the near, it's not in the pit, but near the pit in the where a lot of the hoppers live.
Right.
And I'm kind of jumping around a little bit because we see his body, and then we see Wallace, the guy who basically ratted out where Brandon was. Brandon is Omar's boyfriend, and so we see Wallace in his house, which is like a vacant. It appears to be. Just a vacant home that he's kind of set up shop in. He walks through the house. He's got like 7 kids. I don't know how many are related to him or what.
Yeah, and like 2 adults, weirdly.
Yeah, well, that's Poot, and we all know Poot loves pussy. If we've learned anything
Okay,
from
that
the
was
past
Poot.
couple episodes, and he's got. I was actually interested. I mean, casting is not an accident. He had like a normal, average-looking white girl in his bed.
Right.
Now, do you think that she was? It seems based on like just that quick little visual cue. Do you think that she's from that area, or do you think she's like visiting? Like, what do you think that is? How do you think Poot met that girl?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't want to. I don't want to assume that every time there's a white person, it means like we're getting a subplot about somebody like coming from the county and getting addicted to heroin or whatever.
But that's so far when we've seen white
Right.
people in those areas. That's
Yeah.
exactly that's exactly what
Yeah.
it is.
But I mean, there are like poor white people that have kind of grown up down in those areas, and like
But in that
it would be
specific vacant,
unrealistic. It would be unrealistic to make 100% of the drug dealers and drug addicts black.
yeah, it's just interesting. Because well, it's just that a lot of these drug dealers, you end up seeing that the girls that they end up hooking up with, in a lot of cases, live in nice houses
Really.
or nice areas. Like, if granted, that's Avon's girls, of course. It's Avon, he's a very high class kind of guy, but like
Yeah.
it seems like this lifestyle, regardless of where the girls are from, it seems like this lifestyle of selling drugs kind of affords you a lot of the same perks of celebrity, so to speak,
Hmm.
in that you're one. It's like, you ever watch Sons of Anarchy?
No.
That's a show about bikers. I'm sure you know that. But one of the things about that show, much like The Wire, is that it's been praised by the motorcycle enthusiast community
Really.
about its accuracy, because they took painstaking care to make it as accurate as they possibly could while still making it an entertaining TV show.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things about those bikers in small towns is that all the girls in the small town, like, bikers are the celebrities. And
Really?
so you end up getting kind of that. Yeah, it's like being on TV, selling drugs. You're in that. So anyway, as we're going through the house, he's getting all the kids ready, and I think it's just another testament to Wallace's character of, he is a kind-hearted, gentle soul who has just been brought up in a situation that doesn't fit his personality.
Right.
And that's interesting to me, because we can't just always take the characters at face value and go, oh, that's just who he is. Something made him that way. Something makes everybody every way. We talk about how Bodhi, if he grew up somewhere else, he'd be a completely different person. Mm-hmm. Something must have happened to Wallace. Maybe it's, I believe at least one of those kids is like his little brother, I think, unless we find that out later, I believe. I could just be wrong. But something must have happened to put him in a position to have to care for all those kids, but also in a position to want to care for all those kids.
Right.
I keep hypothesizing maybe it was like he knew he was raised by one of the kids' moms, or maybe one of the kids' sibling, and he's like, I don't know, but something that had happened, something happened to make him do that. Do you have any theories? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but it's just an interesting circumstance to me.
Yeah, I think we'll find out later. I mean, I don't really know for now.
You're gonna play that card? You don't. Well, I'm just hypothesize.
It could be any of the things that you said. Their family, or he just was just raised with a altruistic heart and is taking people in. I mean, I'm guessing there's a family connection, or maybe maybe it'll be one of those things where there's just nothing, and then that's the lesson that we will learn, is some people are just born kind and some people aren't.
All right, so then we have him getting them all ready for school, and he cares. It's not like there's two moments in that scene that I think are really telling about how much he cares versus the realities of the situation. Uh-huh. And on one hand, when the kid doesn't grab his juice or doesn't grab his chips or whatever, and he's like, no, you have to take this. You need to eat. Right. That's essentially, he's giving them bag lunches, even though it's just chips and a juice. That's just what he has to give them. And so he makes sure that everybody takes something to eat and drink to school, which is so he really cares. He cares enough to be like, well, you didn't take it, so go fuck yourself. He's like, no, I'm going to be the parent. But then when the other kid is walking out and he doesn't have his backpack, And he goes, "Where's your backpack?" And he says, "Teacher didn't assign homework," which is an obvious lie. And Wallace kind of pauses as if he's going to make him go back in and get the backpack, but then just lets him go because the reality of the situation is he can't. He's a single parent of 7 kids. He can't micromanage their lives to that extent, but he cares. But it's just, I thought that those were two like nice. That scene was just packed full of like little things. I thought.
Definitely.
And then Wallace goes out and sees. Oh yeah, and he says, "Here's the line. Sorry, go to school. Do you want foster care? If you don't go to school, social services are going to come sniffing around and try to find you, figure out what we're all doing, where we're living, and they're going to put you in foster care." Yeah. And then they all go to school. Like, so he cares a lot, and he's very knowledgeable about the situation. Just packed full of like interesting things. So then Wallace goes out and he sees Brandon's body. It's tortured. The eyes popped out, like shit's carved into him. Did you have a reaction to that other than, well, yeah, that's what happens kind of thing? Or did that kind of shock you?
I have a question. Why is it right there in front of Wallace? Like, why is it next to his house?
I don't think it's particular to Wallace. It's just the area that they live in is where probably a lot of the junkies and the drug dealers and the community at large is. But if you remember Avon, when they're all playing basketball, he says, "When we find them, we're sending a message."
Yeah, I get that, but I just feel like why it seems like they're trying to send a message to Wallace. Wouldn't it be to Omar, like when they put it in Omar's neighborhood? Or
yeah, that's a good point. I think it's less a message to Omar. Like if you look at all of them, just like with Gant, with the witness that they killed, the state's witness that they killed, even though D'Angelo got off, they still killed the witness. It's always a statement to the community. It's this is what happens when you snitch. This is what happens when you rob us. They're ruthless dictators, and that's how they keep them in line. They're not there. They want. It's kind of like it's why the murder stuff happens in the drug game, where it's like it's because this is an unregulated product. This is an illegal activity. They can't go to the cops if they want help. They can't. It's not regulated by anything. It's only controlled by what they can control. And if they control the community through fear, and that's how that they can handle all this stuff, they can't kill every person trying to jack like drug dealers, but they can try to make a circumstance in a community where no one ever wants to think about jacking drug dealers.
Yeah. So do you think that was almost like a twist in that they were like, let's send a message, and we assume that they're saying let's send a message to Omar, but then they're actually just sending a message to their own people?
Oh, maybe. That's a good question. It's weird because I've seen the show so many times that it's like so many 3 I've seen it. But because in my head when I really pay attention to that Avon line, it's sent. No, you're right. You know what? You're probably right. I just didn't see it because I've seen it before, and to me, I already assume I know the answers. But that's not because I know the answers. It's because I know the answers.
Right.
It's not because I figured out the answers. It's because I've already seen what happens. I've seen who the message is to.
It's just shocking that it's like they're happy that Wallace did this for them, but then they leave the body right outside of his place, Yeah.
Well, they also don't know Wallace. They don't know. They assume that everybody's voting.
Proud. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, could not be more proud. And we'll get to when Avon visits the pit. We'll get to that pretty soon. Because no one for a second, other than D'Angelo, who actually knows Wallace, no one, like when Avon comes strolling in there, he's walking in like, I'm about to make this kid's day. But we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I think this is just, at this point, it's almost beating a dead horse, but just showing the stats over, like the police favor having their good stats and clean murder rate than actually doing good police work.
Right.
And the cop is looking at Brandon's body. Yeah, do you remember the line?
Suicide line.
Yeah, this is the worst case of suicide I've ever seen.
Yeah, I had a cop in one of my classes at BCCC who even explained to us that that's what happens. Like if you kill someone with your car, then that was an accident. Nobody wants to spend all the thousands of dollars, unless like a family member or something really like, makes a big deal out of it. They'll write off pretty much everything as an accident if they can, or a suicide or whatever.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. Oh man. All right. The grim realities of God. I love that you have that knowledge and that experience, because apparently it's very true to life. It almost, because when I heard that line, it almost sounds like comical in the sense that it's just like, well, no one can be that it's like, no, it's just the way it is. The way it is for both police and drug dealers in this is just so interesting. Like how it really boils down to all this like really fucked up shit to the average person, but it's just the way it is because of the circumstances. All right, so next up we have McNulty talks to Rawls, and I have a note in here. The fat cop's name is Jay. It's Jay. Okay. Everyone, the fat cop is Jay. If you're for some reason exclusively watching the series through this podcast, I wouldn't recommend it, but his name is Jay. So he tells McNulty the deal. He's kind of vaguely threatening a little bit, and he's talking to Rawls with the fat cop there. Rawls is a little threatening to McNulty, but he's like, listen, if you can wrap this up in a few weeks, you can come on back, and everything will be forgiven. And I do love the interplay with Rawls and Jay, where he's just like, I'm a reasonable man. He's like, very reasonable, sir. That's the dictator who just chopped off 8 people's heads for disagreeing with him. And his lackey is next to him going like, no, sir, you're a very kind, warm-hearted, very forgiving. Like, it could not be more like a less veiled threat. It's just so, and that he expects to see McNulty next week. Now, how do you think, I mean, obviously you know how McNulty's going to react to that, but based on everything you knew at the moment watching that scene, how do you think McNulty responds to threats in the past?
How does he respond to threats?
Let me ask you in a more leading. What's up?
I think he responds the same way he responds to everything. You know, he kind of just like smiles and shrugs it off and keeps doing what he does.
Exactly. Yeah.
He just doesn't give a shit about any. Like there's even though he doesn't quite understand himself, like he understands how full of shit people are, you know, and has gotten to that place in life where you just kind of like smile and like kind of like, all right. Well,
yeah, exactly. He probably walked out of there. Go on.
It's like when you know, like when I was like 22, I'd be like, you know, working in a restaurant and I would argue about every little thing. And I just like, if somebody did something unfair or stupid or selfish, it would just like kill me, you know, like eat at me. And by the time you're like 33, it's kind of like you just kind of smile and let it go and you say yes, ma'am, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think McNulty was not thinking about anything in there except for, I guess he's not going to give me what I want. All right, I better just do it. So then we have D'Angelo at his house trying to pick out an outfit. Has a nice little fashion montage. And that's really interesting. That's so interesting to me because we have a lot of money getting thrown around. There is a lot of money getting thrown around. Granted, a lot of it goes to the top, but it's just so interesting where it's like he might be living in an okay area. Probably not. He's living probably, you know, shitty areas. House is nice, but pretty small. And where does all the money go? He has a closet he's probably got like a $20,000 wardrobe. And he is very, very meticulous about how he dresses. Like, and it's so interesting to see, you kind of expect someone who does what he does to have that be less of a priority. Because it's like, well, like what, but he sees himself, and this kind of goes back to bikers being the small town celebrities, drug dealers being those small, like inner city celebrities. He takes pride in that. He goes out going, a lot of people are going to have eyes on me today. A lot of people are depending on me to be a good role model, be a good example of, you know, like, because that's what he sees himself. None of these people are going like, I do a bad thing.
Right.
I do bad things for a living. He's like, I'm a respectable member of my community. I need to make sure that I'm putting up a good example for everybody else. And like, that's, do you agree with that? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So then he turns the corner to his kitchen. Turns out he's banging the stripper from the club, which I think we all assumed. Although I guess she's not a stripper, but I thought she was a prostitute. I thought that was like her thing. But I guess they're like just generally hooking up.
I don't know. I never got that she was a prostitute. I thought she just kind of like worked at the club.
But what would she do at the club? I guess. Like, because that's what confused me. She wasn't dancing. she worked there, but her job was to go and get people to buy her drinks. So maybe that's it, and that just helps with the money at the bar if they're buying her drinks. But
Yeah,
I really got a prostitute
she
vibe.
doesn't dance at the club?
I didn't see her dance.
Huh.
I mean, I feel
know.
like maybe she does, or but she like it seemed like she said her job was just to go and get people to buy her drinks, and I don't know. She stole money from the one dude. I got all. It was very weird, and my whole interpretation of it. I'm not a strip club connoisseur. I'll have to wait till Josh is on next time to ask about that. I don't know. Just do you does the digression sessions? Do you does the digression sessions ever podcast from a strip club?
Biannually, yes.
Biannually, never mind.
Biannually.
Biannually. That's I don't want to imagine what that is. So. I just kept trying to think what would be the practical purpose. And I was like, well, maybe if the strippers are stripping, but they're not, prostituting, they're not working the night, they would dance, get the guys all riled up. And then she would be there getting them to buy drinks, which helps the bar. And then she would be like, for a little bit more, I'll go home with you. So like that was the vibe I got. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. Who knows? But she was in the kitchen making some food, and the conversation kind of implies that this isn't like a client-John relationship. This is they're regularly hooking up, and he to the point where he's concerned that she might want a key to his house, that she might want like a serious thing, and she even shows a little bit of jealousy that he still spends time with the baby mama.
Right. Did we know before that he had a child?
Yeah, because it was only one quick scene. It was the cook, or it was at the VA or the rec center or whatever that was, where he meets up with Avon and Stringer, and it's him and his baby mama and the child. And Avon picks up the child, and he's like, "Oh, it's my nephew's kid."
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was very, very quick, and yeah. And then Stringer goes and takes his baby mama and the kid and gets him some food. Very quick scene. But then we instantly forget it because the rest of D'Angelo's story is very different. All right, so we are at the basement. We're listening to The Wire on the low-riser payphone, and this is basically another one of those Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Force conversation, like exposition things, where they just have someone goes, I don't know what the rules are about this wiretap, and then have someone smarter explain all of the rules of how they need to set up a wiretap. Which is so funny that even even the quote-unquote boring exposition stuff, which is really just them trying to have it be more realism and explain all of the red tape and bullshit that they have to do, and not bullshit, but red tape that they have to go through and bureaucracy to get these wiretaps. And that should be boring. That should be them just explaining away bureaucracy and red tape. But it's fascinating, I think. I feel like this show, I don't know if it's the way that they do it or it's just they tapped on something that is inherently interesting. But I feel like this show, it's like a perfect storm where they really met up all of good storytelling mixed with a compelling topic. And I don't know.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah, no, if you have the right script and the right actors, I think there's certain characters or people in general where you could listen to them read the phone book and it would be interesting,
That's a good point. That's actually, yeah. Did I just describe how well done exposition works?
No, it is a good point. It is a sign of a great production is that you can just listen to them talk about the mundane and it's interesting.
Yeah. So McNulty now sees the branded crime scene and points out, yeah, they tortured him. He finds out that the city council president is also using police resources for some shit with his lawn. That was, I don't know if you caught that at the end. Where he's like,
furniture.
Why is this body just roasting away in the sun? Oh, because we can't clean up this until, the city council president lets the police officers go for, something, what is it, lawn furniture?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, it just a mountain of shit with power and corruption. And so now we're in the pit. We got Wallace and D'Angelo. They're talking about how fucked up the Brandon situation is, and so we're really seeing how those two characters relate on that human level.
Right.
And Wallace reminds him about how Dee said the game doesn't have to be like that, and and Wallace even mentions the D'Angelo murder thing where he murdered the woman, and he's like, how could you say that knowing that you murdered that woman? How do you live with that? How do you live with that? And D'Angelo gets a look on his face that we know means I don't have to live with that. I didn't actually do that. So that that's which is interesting. I mean, D'Angelo has killed someone before, but not necessarily in such a gruesome and cold-hearted way that it's just
you're saying he didn't kill that woman through the window, that ex-lover of his uncle's.
Oh shit! Did I spoil that? Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I don't think we learned that quite yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. All right.
That's okay.
You'll learn it in a few episodes. It's just,
Right,
and it's also offhand. I would have probably had to point that out. I'm sorry. Well,
that's okay.
No one here is following along with the show, hopefully. So, yeah, but okay, yeah. That's the incongruency of D'Angelo's character. He's a cold-hearted killer, yet he's having all of this remorse over a state's witness who got killed unnecessarily.
Right.
Like, the dude isn't. Wallace and D'Angelo are a lot similar than Wallace knows, than you knew until I spoiled it. Sorry about that. There's like zero spoilers in this show, and I accidentally did one of them.
That's okay.
Okay, but then Wallace says, his eye, it fucks me up. It's like he sees me. And the second I heard that, I was like, Telltale Heart? A little bit of the Raven? And I was like, did they just drop like a double Edgar Allan Poe reference?
Why the Raven? I get the Telltale Heart, but why the Raven?
Well, the Raven wasn't it? I could be, I shouldn't have said the Raven. In my notes, it's just Telltale Heart. Wasn't something with the Raven's eye like that? The Raven was watching him, and the Raven was a metaphor for his like long lost love. And or was it just the sound? Am I blank? I
don't remember anything about the eye. It's possible that it's there.
Fuck me. Then it's just Telltale Heart, but it's still Edgar Allan Poe reference.
No, the Raven certainly represents his dead wife, or at least keeps reminding him of it.
Yeah, I guess it was in my head. It was, I knew something with, I'm sorry, I have not read up on my Edgar Allan Poe.
That's all right.
In high school. So, but that's kind of what I was thinking. It was just like, I knew that Edgar Allan Poe has a common theme in a lot of his works of feeling like you're haunted by something in your past and using actual like physical body parts to reference like that, that I remember. But yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. Do you think I'm reaching on that? Do you think that was an actual reference or just a coincidence?
Well, it probably is a theme that's has a lot to do with any type of murder scenario. So I didn't take it as like a direct reference per se, but maybe. I mean, it is Baltimore.
So I should go just fuck myself. Is that what you're saying?
Damn, man, you're sensitive today.
I am. I'm really sensitive. No. All right. So actually, that was just me trying to transition to the next thing. I figured if you laughed for 2 seconds, I could transition. But then I had to over-explain it like everything else, so it didn't work out. So the police are monitoring the phones for D'Angelo, and he calls Stringer about who ratted Brandon out. And the cops have Stringer's number now, or at least his pager number.
Yes.
So it's pretty good. So then Bodie is on trial. He had this. I love this. He has all sorts of things in place to show that he is a young, innocent boy who did no harm, was just influenced by the older boys in his neighborhood. Right. Which, if Bodie was like, the fact that he's so smart makes that so funny to me. Because, could you imagine, like, that character as strong-willed and as intelligent as he is, could you imagine, like, the notion of him just being like, I didn't know what I was doing. Right, all those older boys in the neighborhood made me do it. And it was just so, I don't know, I laughed so hard at that scene because even Bodie is, like, shocked. It's like, I'm getting off like this? Like, it's that easy? Like, this is insane. Yeah. So what did you think when you saw that scene?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it kind of, like, contrasts with Wallace, who is in this situation, where he doesn't really want to be in, but he kind of has to do what he has to do with the drug dealers, to someone who is just completely manipulating the system, taking advantage of, the charity of a law firm who's willing to represent him pro bono because they think he's like
Oh,
trying really hard.
I should clarify. I don't know if you recall from the scene that one lawyer. That's the drug dealer's hired lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So they weren't doing it for free.
No.
Okay.
None of, yeah, that's the whole. I'm sure there's money laundering. I'm sure they did it for free, and there's some money laundering involved. But yeah, that's his. That's their guy. That is their criminal lawyer who gets them all off left and right.
Oh, okay. I see.
And yeah. But that'd be even funnier that way. But yeah, no, exactly. He knows exactly what the judge needs to hear. He knows based on how the offenses that Bodhi has had, the timeline of it, and how it's been quite some time before he had like the previous charge or whatever it was, because the judge references, or no, the prosecuting attorney, who probably is just paid by the state, just some dude who he had, what was it? He points out, oh, well, in the past, Bodhi's had like a charge, but it had been long enough ago that I feel like we've seen Levy, that's the lawyer's name, we've seen him really pull strings and really like do some amazing like lawyering to get his guys out of stuff, where he almost like puts himself at a little more risk because it's not as clear cut. It's clearly he's working for them. He's hired by Avon and whatnot. But because this is a situation where he thinks he can easily play he's a good boy, he was influenced, and he'll never do it again card. And because of the circumstances, he's able to play the pro bono, my law firm is just doing a nice thing card kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
That fucking, oh my God. People hate that lawyer. Whenever I look online for stuff, by the way, these last couple episodes, it's probably why I'm a little sensitive. I haven't been going online to kind of look up what other people were saying, because I like the first couple. I definitely wanted to just get a feel for what the Wire community thought of each episode, but these I've kind of been flying blind on, but people hate that lawyer.
Really
hate that lawyer. Yeah. So then we see McNulty leaves his card for Omar. Then we got Bubs and the White Boy. I still haven't learned White Boy's name. I've learned Fat Cop's name. It's Jay. Still need to learn White Boy's name. If you happen to come across it, feel free to bring it up.
Okay.
Bubs, but it looks like Bubs wants to go straight and actually just like sell stuff. Bubs is kind of a good businessman when you think about it. But the White Boy's got a plan with another one of his junkie friends that they're going to steal some copper pipes.
Yeah, it's funny how like, literally within like 4 seconds he goes from like, no, I'm just earning an honest day's living to like, oh, you have a plan? Let's do it.
Yep. Bubs is, well, that's what's so interesting about Bubs. I mean, obviously he's got the drug addiction thing, but like it seems like he's got kind of a thrill addiction too. He loves the scams.
Yeah.
Like he is so.
Yeah, it's true.
When you think about how he was talking about I have 2 earphones in this problem. I'm yelling at you right now. And I don't know, the coffee, that doesn't help. But like, I feel like Bubs, every time they have a scam, he gets that look in his eye where he's like, ooh, oh yeah, let's do it. And even if he wasn't an addict, I feel like he'd be the guy who's like scouring, like he'd be the guy trying to find infinite coupon, like savings loops.
Right.
Like he'd be an extreme couponer. He'd be finding ways to flip houses. He'd be like, that seems to be what he is, which it sounds scammy, but on a grander scheme, he's trying to be a business innovator is really what the same skills are. He's just using it to get $20 so he can get high.
Yeah.
And also when you hear him talking like in the first episode to the white guy about like, I'm trying to get you, he's like, you're green. I'm trying to get you. I don't know what his phrase was, but like, he has this when he's explaining the rules of the game and how the drug game works and the scams and the buying. It's so interesting, or not interesting, but it's like he gets this glimmer in his eye, like he's so enamored by this concept, this lifestyle, that I think he just loves the scams. I think he's a thrill seeker, which thrill seeking is a sign of impulsivity. Impulsivity often leads to drug use in certain situations. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a thrill seeker before he was a junkie.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bodhi's back and nobody's around. He calls to see what's up. The cops are listening, and then Prez Belusky marks it non-pertinent, and then Freeman explains, like, no, they're using codes. It's all pertinent. More exposition, but still very interesting. He explains how they're trying to build something from scratch, and even suspicion of conspiracy makes it pertinent. And then Prez kind of looks at him like he's excited, but he's like never heard of that before. And I think it's really solidifying Freeman and McNulty and even Daniels to an extent of like they're real, and Greg's, and they're real police, and they want to build a huge case, and they want to like make, I don't know, career case in Baltimore
Sure.
police. So then the cops get Bodie again. This is some of the funniest. Watching it again, I don't know if I laughed so hard the previous times, but watching it again, it is comical. They're just patrolling, and that guy they just locked up fucking twice is just wandering the streets. And this is a modern day Three Stooges, or a modern day, I don't know, some slapstick farcical comedy. And they beat the shit out of him again, as is tradition at this point. Right. And Bodie shows how he got off, and Bodie's not even mad that he just got jumped. He just wants a ride.
Yeah.
But I love the line. Listen, no offense. This is what Bodie says to them when they're like, they can't believe that he's free, and he goes, right. No offense, but the juvenile system, in my opinion, is a fucking joke.
He's like outraged about it.
He's outraged. It's so. Oh my god, I'm like tearing up laughing at it now. I fucking love. Even my notes, I put LOL. And then the cops give him a ride to his grandmother's house.
Right.
Like this relationship. This is some of the funniest, but also most poignant like writing. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Bodie finds a girl. Oh, not Bodie. I wrote the wrong name. D'Angelo, who, if we recall from last episode, is told frozen everybody's accounts, frozen everybody's assets. He hasn't paid anybody, and he's supposed to wait and see who has money at the end of the week to see who has been selling secrets to probably Omar. Yeah. He finds one of his girls, one of his dealers. She's buying a bunch of shit at the grocery store, and he realizes that and he calls her out on it, that she's not a snitch, but she's been stealing from him. She's been skimming off the top because she has money, but not enough. But he knows his people, and he knows it's not enough money to have been snitching. She was just skimming off the top. He also finds that I forget what, shit, I messed up. I didn't take this note. There was another person he finds out is maybe not skimming off the top, but was doing something shady, but it wasn't snitching. There's her and this other guy, this other dealer who weren't.
Well, I thought they were both working together. I thought they were like stealing a little bit of product and stuff.
Oh no, I know. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, you're right. The little details sometimes escape me. But yeah, absolutely. So they're skimming product off the top and selling it and keeping that money. That's right. Okay, so then we're back in the homicide unit. We have Jay, who tells Bunk to get warrants out for D'Angelo, that he says that other Major Rawls wants it. And Bunk basically sees they're going to try to charge him for publicity. So they can arrest D'Angelo and then say, look, we got the guy. But it's not going to stick, and he's eventually going to get off. Yeah. And so then Jay, Fat Cop, who as of now has just been a suck up to Rawls and been kind of just a piece of shit in general, basically says to Bunk, tell McNulty what they're doing. Yeah, you figured it out. Tell McNulty they're trying to fuck him. Which is, I think, a really nice thing, because then it kind of shows that Jay is perfectly comfortable in his pretty safe and I assume lucrative and credential-filled roles in his job. But at the same time, he's still willing to at least put his neck on the line a little bit and just say, I can't help you, but let McNulty know that they're trying to screw him, which I thought was really cool for his character to do. So Daniels then makes the we recall that he asked for good cops after he got dumped with Prez and somebody else, and they gave him 2 good cops, quote unquote good cops, from another unit. Those good cops are alcoholics, one of which got beat up by Bodie and is now retiring and can't wait to scam the IRS now, and the other cop is just being drunk and not doing any work. So Daniels gives the alcoholic cop a choice to quit, quit and go to rehab, or he can stay drunk, but go on that roof and take pictures. You can either do your job or you can go to rehab and quit our unit, and that's it. So then the guy takes another swig and quits. Decides he's not feeling too well. And I like how, and I don't know if this was, I'm sure this was intentionally written, but if you notice, Daniels said you need to go check yourself in for drug abuse. That's different than alcohol abuse. That's different than alcohol addiction. That's different than any of those other things. He had said abuse. Abuse is the thing that's like, it's not going to give you a diagnosis, and you can go to a detox. You don't have to go to AA. You just go to a detox kind of thing. Daniels really gave that guy an easy out. Like it's and granted, they might have just said alcohol abuse because they just meant alcohol in general. But like, I think they may have specifically used that phrasing to show that Daniels isn't, that Daniels is really being soft on all these people. He's a very forgiving guy to his unit. Just like when he explained to Pryzbylewski, some guy who beat the shit out of a kid for no reason. Like, he still tells him exactly what he needs to say, even though he hates Pryzbylewski in that moment. He still tells him what he needs to say to get off. Okay. So then Daniels kind of just visits, sees Prez and sees Freeman and just has that There's a lot of scenes of Daniels in the background smiling at other people, approving of their work. Deputy Ops is going to have my ass for this. So McNulty tells Freeman and Greggs about how Rawls wants to fuck up the case. Right. And they argue, let's take it to Daniels. We can take it to Daniels. We trust him. And McNulty disagrees and basically says, pick a side. Daniels is just trying to ride the chain of command up to his, whatever major or whatever he wants to make. He's like, he's not going to do it. You have to pick a side. You're either with me in the case or you're with Daniels in the establishment. So it's scam time. The great copper wire pipe heist.
Right.
So the white junkie runs into the car with the copper pipes. And the other guys steal the pipes while the driver's distracted and try to sell it. And we see that Bubs is a pretty good salesman when it comes to the copper wire negotiation. Do you have any thoughts on that scene? Was it thoroughly entertaining for you? Was it?
Yeah, it was a fun scene. I mean, it's fun to watch those characters being, mischievous and having a good time ripping people off, like they're likable in that like really junky kind of way, like they're fun and silly. They don't really want to hurt anybody. They don't really want violence, but they are.
And in this world, that makes kids, them the heroes. In this world, that makes them
addicts are just
heroes.
Kind of like, addicts are kind of just have this child mentality, and they can be like kind of like likable in certain ways.
They are chaotic neutral.
Right.
Oh man. So the cops go to Daniels. Daniels does not seem up for fighting the system. What are your thoughts on Daniels during this episode? Like, because we've gone back and forth of he is just trying to ride the chain of command. Oh, maybe he wants to do good police work. What do you think with that?
I don't know. I think maybe he's an example of somebody who wants to do a good job, but is just so jaded by the experiences he's had.
Yeah. I don't know. That's so rough. That's like, and I guess because we keep talking about it, it kind of works out for what they, were intending with the show, is that maybe, I don't think he is a good or bad guy. Or actually, maybe he's good, but it's at the same time, he's like, all of his intentions are there, but man, is this guy conflicted. And it's not even like it's not even like he is choosing one way or another. He is flip-flopping back and forth. He doesn't know what to do, and he's kind of like running back and forth on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
So Avon and Stringer visit the pit, and when Avon came in and they did the whole slow-mo thing, did that weird you out? I know it was kind of like...
Absolutely. What's going on there? Why are we suddenly in like a Fast and Furious movie? There has to be some point to that, right? Like,
you either win by an inch or a mile.
Is it saying like this guy is beyond the reality of the rest of the show,
If that is the situation, then that is insane, and I love it. If they
it's like, why this show is so documentary, esque, so realistic, and then all of a sudden we have like a rock star intro with music and slow motion. It's so bizarre.
I knew that would throw you. That's so funny. I didn't even notice it, but like, you're exactly right. I mean, I noticed it, but I didn't notice it at first.
Right. Yeah.
But like, so I'm still going back and forth. And okay, that prediction, that's a wildly wonderful prediction that I love, or not prediction, but theory on is he just, are they really just showing that he is above the rest of this world, which is hilarious. Like, or, so I think it's, if it's that, then that's genius. And I would love to see an entire episode or an entire like version of the show where people go back and CGI like that kind of shit into it. It's just this, yeah. Obviously, I think it's to show how grand it is that Avon is even walking in there. Like that's a king walking through the poor section of town.
Right.
Like that is like nobody sees that. That's like that's a huge Hollywood celebrity going back to their hometown and just walking through the mall kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Like that is yeah. So I think they're kind of showing how unprecedented it is by changing up the style of the show. Also, it might even have been, it might have been like a the Simpsons Itchy, Scratchy, and Poochie show thing. Yeah. It might be a Poochie moment where they're just like, where it's the networks going, we need more cool, more zazz, more, and then they did that for one like version of the edit, and they focus grouped it, and it went off the goddamn charts.
Right. Yeah.
Because keep in mind, this is 2002. Like, we don't have the same kind of internet that we have today. We don't have the same kind of audience feedback. They were still using focus groups trying to target various demographics. Right. Like, you very well might have had a situation where that was a post-production change because of what the network wanted. And yes, it's HBO, but at the same time, it might have tested well, and people might have said, no, we want Avon to be this kind of character thing.
Yeah.
Or who knows? Who knows what it is? If you have your thoughts, tweet us at do we need a Twitter for this podcast? Or
absolutely we do.
At Snotboogie Smile Time Fun Hour. We'll figure it out. We'll post all the Twitter links when we post these episodes. Which, by the way, Mike, we're going to start posting these in a couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So we won't have finished recording the whole season, but we're going to start putting these up in late September.
Sounds good.
All right, sweet. So Avon, and let's see. Avon and Stringer is the pick. Okay, so what I liked about the slow-mo thing, not necessarily the slow-mo or that funky synthesizer music, was that Avon's looking around like nostalgic. He's like the rock star who's going back to like a tiny club to see another band play and is seeing all of the traits of like what it felt like for him back in the days of selling drugs and running the game and seeing the junkies and all this stuff that to the people in the pit looks mundane and to the viewer looks like depressing and tragic.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I remember this. I've been locked up in that office too long. Like, Stringer loves the business, loves where it can take him. Avon just loves the game.
Yeah.
Avon loves it. He loves it.
Yeah.
So he loves it. Shit's real in the field. So and later on we see the white junkie gets busted for buying more dope. And well, ain't got no luck. So we have the cops watching phones, and the shitty cop, one of the shitty cops who is on the roof, misses Avon and Stringer completely. I don't know if you saw that. Like, you couldn't get pictures of them. Like, that was...
Oh, no, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he missed him fucking completely. He missed the entire Avon thing. Oh, and while they're there, I guess I skipped it. Shit, I didn't even run a note on that. When they're in the pit, Avon's basically like, to D'Angelo, I'm giving 500 to this guy for doing the shooting, 500 to this guy for doing the shooting, 500 to you for doing the relay, and 500 to your boy Wallace for spotting him.
Yeah. And
so notice Avon doesn't go to talk to Wallace. He has one of his guys go to talk to Wallace. Avon may miss the game, miss the pit, but he's still the king. He talks to his lords. He doesn't talk to the peasants. He'll walk amongst the peasants once in a while, but he's not delivering that money personally.
Yeah.
And by the way, that notion of the king not talking to peasants in about 2 seasons, I think, maybe 3 seasons, that comes back in a very major way, which is why I bring it up. Let's see. Daniels tries to reason with Rawls. Clearly, he has never met someone unreasonable, because Daniels thinks he can talk his way out of this, but it could not be more clearly that those people, Daniels is arguing why it would be good police, and the other guys are basically like, we don't give a fuck. It's not about being good police. It's about keeping the stats, keeping the public eye where we want it. Like, that's all it really is. Maybe not public eye, but the public servant eye. They want to make sure that the council is happy with them, that judges are happy with them. So then Omar calls McNulty and he says, I'll meet with you, but I want to see Brennan's body. And, well, McNulty's spending the night with his kids. And we see another reason of why his wife may not want him to have custody, because he picks up Omar in Omar's neighborhood with his fucking kids in the car and drives down to the morgue to take Omar to see his boyfriend's body. And his kids are just kind of chilling out in the morgue. And God knows what time of night this is.
Right.
Like, did you think anything of that, or were you just like more McNulty? Or were you a little
more McNulty?
Yeah.
You know, it's what we're learning about McNulty is that that's how he does it. But again, I kind of see myself in it. You know, like when it's kind of like he doesn't just feel the need to live the life that it's like weird to bring your kids to the morgue, but it's kind of like what's really the harm? You know, like they're just gonna sit there in the waiting room.
But I mean, okay, well, here's the thing. We know that Omar lives within his own code, and we know Omar's code is to never fuck with somebody outside of the drug game. We know that because we've seen Omar in private. Right. Strip down everything we know about Omar except for the scenes he's had with McNulty. McNulty is picking up a hitman / like drug, like with his kids in the car in that guy's neighborhood. Right. And he also knows that Omar, like, I mean, you look at his eyes, it looks like he's got serious substance abuse problems. His eyes are just fucking yellow. His liver is fucked, like from something. Like he is jaundiced as balls. And so, like, you don't know that Omar's not going to, like, be high. You don't know if Omar's just had his boyfriend killed. You know Omar's going to take it out on you. You don't know if someone who does what Omar does probably has bipolar disorder.
Right.
Like, I think so. You hold out in your home for 2 months, just like probably getting high, maybe not, who knows. And then you go out and you have this manic explosion where you think you can rob the biggest drug dealers in town, like kill people, and then just like be okay with that. Like, I mean, it's not be okay with it, but like to think you're going to be okay kind of thing. Like something's has to be fucked up with you beyond just your experiences to lead to that, I would assume. Right. Yeah. And you just bring your kids to his neighborhood with your car and have them.
It's pretty extreme, but I don't know. I could picture myself kind of doing something like that and then being like, afterward, like, oh yeah, that was probably a bad idea. But I do like, I don't know. I do think I like that McNulty doesn't see things in that way. He's kind of like, what? They're just kind of like people like you and me. Like we shouldn't be so segregated or whatever.
Omar is, just want to clarify, Omar is not Omar may be a good person, but he is not a person like you or I.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying I like McNulty's general attitude of like, what's the big deal with us like mixing, Yeah.
Well, and the other thing with, okay, so here's my counterpoint to myself. McNulty has shown us that he is an incredible judge of character.
Right. Yeah.
McNulty is that's his superpower. He is a great judge of character. So we almost kind of go by, well, if he has pegged Omar is fine, and we know he's fine. Yeah. But McNulty, even if we're just looking at through McNulty's eyes, he's probably seen enough to know that he can trust Omar. That Omar is more concerned with seeing Brandon's body than anything else. All right. So Wallace talks to D'Angelo, and they have their heart-to-heart where D'Angelo basically says, no, those people who I demoted, they were stealing from the dealers, or they were stealing from us, skimming off the top, selling our own drugs, keeping money. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell like Avon and them? And he's like, I'm not going to tell them because what do you think is going to happen to them? They're going to assume that they're snitching, first of all. And even if not, it's still going to be horrible. And so it really shows that like D'Angelo, just like Wallace, has that real soft spot in their heart to want to help people who they understand. They're understanding and give people the benefit of the doubt, and they're a lot more forgiving than the world that's around them.
Yeah.
And so, which is nice because I mean Wallace is like losing his mind, and so it's really nice that like he can have D'Angelo to rely upon for that. Which could you imagine if he was all alone in that scenario and didn't have anyone he could talk to?
Right. Yeah.
Like that's Jesus. So Omar sees Brandon and freaks out, and the next day he comes to the basement to meet with all the cops, and they talk about how Brandon was tortured and how Omar it's basic, and Omar gives them info on Weebay, Stinkum, and Bird. And two of those people, I believe, were the ones that Avon said did the shooting. Like he already he knows who their hitmen are. He knows who their guys are. And so in just telling the story of what happened, Freeman is listening to it, and he's able to correspond the murder to all the pager records from that night. Shows it to McNulty, and he's like, "That's our murder." And McNulty brings it to Daniels, and he's like, "In this case, we're never where we need to be. We're always a little short, always a little slow. And because you won't fight the higher-ups, we could have had them on this."
Right.
And Daniels looks at it just completely deflated because he's just like, there's no arguing with that. And in my opinion, because we're about to see Daniels break his own code and risk some stuff. I think that was the turning point for Daniels, where he goes, I can't live with myself. I don't care what rank I get. I can't live with myself if this is – I don't want this rank if this is what I have to do to get it. Right. Let people die, let people get off. So then meanwhile, Freeman and McNulty, they visit that's the other thing I love about McNulty. He starts basically screaming at Daniels, storms out. He doesn't storm out to go to the bar. He doesn't storm out to go home. He storms out to investigate the arcade because there's more police work to be done. That's just McNulty. And they basically the payphone outside is a match for the payphone that was used to call in the sighting of Brandon. And we find that the enforcers for Avon came into the arcade with handcuffs, basically pretending to be cops, and took away Brandon. So Daniels goes and talks to a higher up about crossing Rawls. So he did what that unprecedented thing McNulty did, talking to the judge to get the judge to influence the cops, and see in episode 1, which has essentially, potentially doomed McNulty's career. Was Daniels is now trying to do the same thing, which is extremely risky because of the position Daniels is in. And the higher up won't help him out because he says, I like my career too much. If you go against Rawls, you're just sacrificing your career. So we now know the stakes of what Daniels may or may not be doing. So then Omar gives Officer Greg's info on Avon and his whole crew, including murders and murder weapons, specifically with Bird. He still has the murder weapon he probably used from multiple murders because Bird's too dumb to throw a nice gun away, basically. And then she was like, well, we're going to need someone to testify. How are we going to do that? And Omar's like, I'll fucking testify.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out, in the future, there may or may not be a scene, because this is what they're setting up, where Omar testifies against an enforcer. Omar says he's willing to go onto the stand. Now, if that scene happens, are you not just so excited to see Omar testifying in court?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so
I'm starting to wonder too if there's if part of his character is the
Omar.
They haven't really touched on homophobia much, but I'm wondering, is that part of his motivation for being so ruthless? Has he grown up being discriminated against and tormented for being gay by these types of guys?
I would bet he has, and I would bet he never gave a fuck about it since day one. Because he was just if you look at his character, he is very much, I'm going to be me. I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care what the risks are. So I would bet he was that guy who was just completely tormented, but I bet he didn't stay in the closet very long. I bet you so much he didn't. I mean, maybe he did,
I agree.
But I feel like he would have just been like, nope, that's me, and bring it. And that obviously, he was completely alienated from his community. And I'd have to go back and rewatch the episode where they talk about, I believe they talk about Omar's history a little bit. McNulty does, or maybe it's it was a relative of Omar or Avon, who was in jail in Frederick. I don't know if you remember. It was a real quick thing. I'd have to, like I said, I have to go rewatch any of the Omar stuff to try to get a good idea of his background. I'm sure there's a Wikipedia for the Wire somewhere where I can get that info. But yeah, that is really interesting thinking about Omar's history and his past. But yeah, he's been alienated from this community, and if he would have been otherwise, if he were straight, he'd probably be selling. He'd probably be enforcing. That's probably what he'd do. He'd be alongside Bert maybe, or a variant of that if things were a little bit different. So Rawls talks to Daniels and his boss, and Rawls talks to Daniels and Daniels' boss, and says basically he's determined to charge the 3 murders, even if it wrecks Daniels' case. He's like, he wants to charge D'Angelo. Don't care. Gonna do it. Don't care if he gets off or not. Although he claims that his convictions if the convictions go through, that's Rawls' argument. He's like, if the convictions go through, we'll be able to roll D'Angelo onto Avon, and boom, case solved. Now, remember when the meathead cops were Carver and Herc were going to pick up Bodie from the boys' home that he snuck out of when they're driving up there? Do you remember that scene? Where he's like, it mimics this so much. It's 2 meathead cops who don't know what they're talking about saying, we're going to pick him up. He's going to flip on this guy, career case. That's the exact same argument that the Major is making. And we all know how stupid of an argument that is. But in this case, I think the Major knows it's a bad argument. He's just saying it because he needs to say something to support his own case. And Daniels calls him out. And Daniels talks his way into getting the wire for another month, which is effectively crossing Rawls. And as we've heard, it may have completely wrecked Daniels' career. Daniels may not have the career now because he was able to get an extra month out of that wire.
Right.
Also, Daniels does some pretty good arguing on which is funny because I always forget that Daniels either was a lawyer or he went to law school. I think he definitely went to law school. I forget if he was a practicing lawyer or if he went into criminal justice. But like his wife wants him to end up being a lawyer, that like again, or whatever, use his law degree for that. But like he has a law degree. He's an incredibly good lawyer. The way he argued his case for keeping the wire up, which I thought was fantastic. Great. Like I told you this before, I love watching professionals do their job well. Just like Bunkin McNulty and the murder stuff. All right. So then Rawls meets with one of the shitty cops from the basement, the one who missed the chance to take pictures of Avon and Stringer, and tells him to spy on Daniels, or no, McNulty, to dig up dirt. He wants to spy on McNulty basically to get some dirt on him. And he's like, come on, he doesn't drink on the job, he doesn't drink and drive, find me something. And so I'm starting to think maybe this is how Rawls got that dirt on Daniels. Because remember the FBI guy told McNulty, watch out for Daniels because Daniels was possibly stealing money, or like he had all this like money that was unaccounted for. So we don't know like what that is. And when we talked to the police department, the narcotics department, they said, nope, forget it. Let it go. We got it. And then nothing ever happened. So like maybe this is how, maybe the dirt on Daniels isn't as bad as we think it is. Are you still there? Hey. Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, maybe the dirt on Daniels isn't as bad or isn't as credible as we think it is, because maybe it was Rawls or some higher up, maybe even Rawls, who bent the rules a lot to dig up dirt. That's maybe how Rawls keeps everyone in line. He will turn people against each other to dig up dirt on anybody. And so it's like, if you look at like, okay, well, let's reverse it. Let's say Daniels wanted to get information on McNulty, knowing McNulty was on his unit like 4 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago. Knowing what we know about McNulty, if you just paint him for, McNulty, yeah, he's always drunk. He's always drunk driving. Like, how reliable of a murder police could he possibly be if he is just like, if he is a complete alcoholic? What details is he missing? What details is he making up? What details are skewed by his problems? Like, you could really just, you could make the same case that McNulty is a quote unquote dirty cop for a lot of the same reasons as you could make an argument for why Daniels would be, untrustworthy. And even if Daniels was skimming money somehow and laundering money or whatever, does that necessarily make him a bad police as far as a murder police? Maybe not. A narcotics police? Maybe not. We don't know. It's just, but that's what Rawls does to keep people in line. So I think if anything, I feel like that scene bodes well for Daniel's character, that maybe any suspicions we have about him are not as credible as previously thought.
Right.
All right. So last scene, Daniels tells McNulty about what he's been going through, getting the wire for an extra month, and they have a nice moment. Although there is some shitty dialogue, I don't know if you picked up on it. Now I'm focusing so much on stereotypical dialogue after that first conversation you and I had, where after they have the moment, he's basically like, he doesn't say boss, but he basically is like, thanks, hey boss, thanks, like thumbs up, freeze frame, like credits roll, executive producer David Simon, and like, but then they had some pretty good dialogue because after he says thanks, McNulty goes, did it cost you? And Daniels just walks away. Absolutely, it fucking cost him. It potentially cost him his career. We don't know for sure, but as far as we know, everyone else told him it would cost him his career. Right. So we'll see. And the episode ends with Daniels staring at the picture of Brandon's body, and he sighs. And at the end of the day, he chose good police work over career advancement. And he picked us. And we all thought, like, McNulty told everyone else to pick a side. The only person who had to pick a side was Daniels, and Daniels chose his side. And I think, obviously, the episode is called The Wire. It's granted the second episode with The Wire, but it's the episode where The Wire, everything about The Wire is established. But I also, reading a little too much into it, maybe, but I also think it might be called The Wire, as in the show's theme, because this is the episode that solidifies our unit. This solidifies everyone's on the same page. Everyone is full force ahead on this wire to build up a huge case against the Barksdale drug crew. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the episode.
All right.
Are you still enjoying these?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Sweet. All right. So next time we'll do episode 7, maybe also 8. I definitely want to do a full episode on 9. I think because that's game day and that's a fun episode. So let's prep 7 and 8. Have you watched ahead at all, or are we caught up where you're at right now?
Right now we're caught up.
All right, nice. All right, sweet. So let's watch 7 and 8, and then we'll be good to go. Do you have any last thoughts on this episode?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, sweet. All right.
You know what? One thing that I thought was weird was when Bubs sees his partner being arrested. He's just like kind of disappointed. When I think a real junkie, if their next fix has just been snatched away from them, is devastated on the inside.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Now, do you think, just your call, do you think that is more telling of writing a scene? Like, do you think that's due to the writing because it's a TV show where they're like I don't want to call it bad writing, but do you think that's bad writing, or do you think that's something telling about Bubs' character?
It struck me as bad writing.
Okay.
I'd say the only out is that I can see is that they had more money.
You could just still go and just buy. I guess I have to make the run.
Right.
Yeah, but, that's fair.
Yeah, it just struck me as unrealistic.
Yeah. Which is so. This is such a thick and dense show, and there's a few things I'm glad that we're being critical about it because as much as if we didn't like the show so much, you couldn't really be that critical about it because you'd probably just glance over it and wouldn't notice. All right, sweet. Well, give me some plugs. What do you got?
Let's see. I'll be published in the Skeptical Inquirer this next month, I think.
Oh, nice. When we air this, probably.
And listen to the digression sessions, read my column, BYT, Baltimore, and Brightest Young Things. And that's pretty much it.
Sweet. All right. So as always, go to the erictriestoohard.com for this podcast. And by the time this is up, there will be 4 other podcasts as well that you can choose from. And follow me on at Eric Tries.
And I'm at Mike Moran Wood, WOULD.
All right, sweet. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this Snotboogie Funtime Smile Hour.
Thanks, everybody.
That's what it'll still be called. All right, see you guys.
Bye-bye.